Happy Monday, happy March, and welcome to the Healing She Got Faith talk show. We are in episode 110, okay? It is March. This is the third month of 2024. And if you've been listening to the show, you know I've been processing 2023 and really taking my time in 2024. Also, so if you've been listening, all of February we had guests. So every single episode in February was a Grief Beyond Death episode. So shout out to all my guests. If you follow us on social media, TikTok, Instagram, I have been doing replays throughout the week to thank my guests and things of that nature. So thank you to all my guests. In March, we're going to have even more guests, and then I'll do another recap. So I don't think I did it in 2023. Maybe in 2022 was probably the last time I did it. But February and March, I did all guest shows, so all Grief Beyond Death, because I really wanted to bring people to speak and give themselves flowers and show resources to the community. March is such a special month for me because it's social work month, it's Women's Month, and then this year I'm adding in celebrating Doula's Appreciation because one, I'm a woman. Two, I'm a social worker. Three, I've been working with a lot of doulas and I've been learning a lot about the doula industry, and I just have a newfound love for it. So I am overwhelmed with the excitement that is coming with March. February is a really special month for me because one, I love love. I also wrote the book Everyone Has a Love Story. And so to be able to speak on the different types of love, which I just love. And then also to, even though like I didn't speak about it, but I love Black History Month, and during February I supported local businesses. I made sure to shop black owned places. So all of that has to do with community, and all of that is a really big part of who I am and really just what I want to give to the world. Like I love shopping local. I love shopping Black and brown businesses. I love supporting my Black and brown entrepreneurs. And so it's just really, really important. And so now that we're entering into the month of March, I want to talk to y'all about Social Work Month, especially with some of the transitions that I've been going through. So the last 2 years that I have done Social Work Month, I've actually educated like what is social work, macro, micro, meso. I actually did education, but I'm in such a different place as a social worker in my career that I want to explore that. So with that being said, episode 110 is titled Everyone Has an Agape and Self-Love Story, because I want to end the Everyone Has a Love Story series. So this will be the last episode of Everyone Has a Love Story, maybe, in case I decide to do something different when I'm editing this episode. But agape love, we'll get into that. But agape love to me is love of people, and then self-love is just being brave enough to love yourself. And I think being a social worker, you have to have both of those things. And also to being a woman, that's a whole nother thing. So let's go ahead and jump into the icebreaker so we can go ahead and talk about these things. I'll catch y'all in the icebreaker. Actually. All right, welcome to episode 110's icebreaker. So before I started recording, I had already picked the cards because I was just in one of those moods where I just wanted to have everything. So if you're looking at the video or whatever and you're like, "Should I have cards?" I picked it before I cleaned up, and so I wrote it down. Okay, so the card we picked, it is by How to Love Yourself by Louise Hay, because We're going to talk about agape love and self-love. So I thought these cards fit perfectly. I think we actually used these cards last week. We sure did. Okay, so cool. And I only picked one card because last week we had like 6-7 cards. So today we just got one. So it says, I let my light shine. I am wonderful. I rejoice in the truth of my being. I accept it as so and let it be. Let me tell y'all. So I actually recorded episode 110 before this. Like I recorded it a couple days ago and it was just a little bit more darker. And so I was like, I don't know. I was just saying some things that I don't think that was the route I was trying to go for this episode. So now I like kind of done like got some ideas in my head. And so it says, I let my light shine. Does this card resonate with me? Why not? It's a confusing card if I'm being honest. I let my light shine. I would say I used to not have a problem letting my light shine, but currently I do want to let my light shine, but I want to let it shine in a different way. Like I want to be that little spot of light, like when you think about being in a dark tunnel and you don't know if you're gonna make it, but you see that little dot of light and you like, okay, I'm almost there. That's how I want to be. I think for the last couple of years, I have been louder with shining my light because I do believe that I am a light in a dark place. I 100% believe that. But in this season, I have been struggling with worthiness. I've been struggling with feeling like I'm doing enough. I've been struggling as a woman. We go through that. We always feel like we're just not enough. We always feel like that, right? So I will say I do let my light shine, but I'm in a position where I want to transition it to, I want it to shine, but I want it to shine in a different way. Okay. So it says, I am wonderful. I am wonderful. I am wonderful. I think it's taken me a lot to get to this place where I could be like, I'm dope. I'm good at what I do. I'm wonderful. I'm great. I can always grow, but I think the beauty about myself is that you get what I give you, whether it's on the podcast, whether it's on TikTok, whether it's in person, whether it's at work, whether it's with the president of the United States, or whether it's with my sister or brother. Like you get what I give you. And I'm very open about my personalities because there's multiple. There's multiple because it depends on the mood, it depends on the day, it depends on if I got enough sleep, if I got enough eat. Like it depends on all of that. But no matter what I give is actually who I am. And so I am wonderful. I rejoice in the truth of my being. I think that is the beauty of myself. I have learned who I am and I accept myself. I accept my past, my present, and who I'm going to be. Okay. I accept that. And I think I got to stop saying I think because Lisa, stop saying you think. Okay. I rejoice in the truth of my being. This is one of the most powerful things about me. I have sat in some of the most darkest and ugliest places of my life. Okay. And because I've done that, I'm at a place where I know who I am. And I think that is so beautiful. I think that I see that thing. I believe that is the most beautiful thing about me because I have accepted myself. I know myself. I'm willing to see myself grow. I am willing to adjust the past. There is nothing that anybody can tell me about me because I've already sat with it. I've already done it. Um, I know a lot of people think like, oh, you don't like feedback, you don't like criticism. It's not that I don't like feedback or I don't like criticism. What it is that people make assumptions based off of what they're going through, and a lot of people just don't really know who I am and don't really understand who I am. For example, like a lot of people will say, "Oh, you're a perfectionist." Nowhere near a perfectionist. Nowhere near a perfectionist, but I do operate at a certain standard. I have standards. And if I don't meet them or you don't meet them, I can no longer dumb myself down, not shine my light. Let's go back to the first sentence. Not shine my light to make you comfortable. Or like, I know in one of the episodes we talked about like asking for help, or maybe it was not here, maybe it was with one of the guests, but it was it was something of like, I was talking about asking for help, and the comment was, "Oh, but you're hard headed." And I was like, "It's not that I'm hard headed; it's that I don't think I have a good judgment of character." I think that like when people say they're gonna do something, I believe them. And in the past 2 years, people have shown me that they don't keep their word. But yeah, I still give it. Let me give you an example. When I had bought my building, I had hired a whole bunch of contractors. We just had so much work to do, and I kept paying these contractors in full. And I was paying them in full, and they were ghosting me. And so at some point, after paying in full about 10 times, somebody was like, stop paying these people in full. Like, why are you not learning the lesson? Like, obviously, when you pay people in full, they just don't come back. And I was trying to tell them, like, well, in my head, I was always taught that, like, if you're a client who pays in full, like, you get top priority. And the person was like, yeah, but you haven't been a top priority. So stop paying in full. And so I hired another contractor after I had just fired one. And I called that same person, and he was like, did you pay him in full? And I was like, no, I didn't. I didn't. I actually did it. I just did the deposit. He was like, woo, because if you had paid them in full, I was gonna say you just want to give your money away. And that's the type of like judgment that I miss. So it's not that I don't like asking for help. It's that I just ask the wrong people. I don't have a good judgment of character. Y'all know that quote, like, if a person shows you who they truly are, believe them. And I feel like that as a community. Like, if a industry of people show you who they truly are, believe them. The truth of the matter is I've paid so many people in full and they haven't showed up. And so now moving forward with contractors and partners, like, y'all not getting full payment. And when they ask why, I let them know. And some people cool with it. Some people they like, no, you gotta pay in full. That's cool. We just not gonna work together. So, whew, man, that's a tangent. Anyways, so I rejoice in the truth of my being, and I think Lisa stopped saying that. I do rejoice. I know who I am. I know who I am. I'm able to say it. I'm able to set that standard. There's certain things I just won't do because I know who I am. And my truth is what it is. And I'm wonderful. And the last thing it says is I accepted that song, let it be. That's where I'm at in life, y'all. Like, it is what it is. Like, we here. We made it. And we gonna keep pushing. So I think that the moment you can really love yourself for who you are, I think is so beautiful. The moment you can really be like, this is who I'm meant to be, this is what I went through, this is all of it. It's so beautiful, y'all. Like, I really love who I am. I love that I love. I love that I'm a writer. I love that I'm ambitious. Ooh, I messed that word up. I love that I love how I talk. I just love that I'm goofy. Like, I love that I'm goofy. Like, I'm silly as hell, okay? So, yeah, I let my light shine. I'm wonderful. I rejoice in the truth of my being. I accept it as so and let it be. I love that. I love that. Okay, y'all. Let's go ahead and jump into the topic of the day. I'll see you over there. right. Happy Monday. Happy March. Welcome to episode 110's topic of the day. And so today we are talking about everyone has an agape and love story. So, um, so March is Women's Month and Social Work Month. And then, like I said in the intro, I want to throw in doula appreciation. So typically I try to educate people on the social work industry. What is social work? What is that? Blah blah blah. Hopefully I'll get some guests on the show that can actually break down social work and the different sections of social work and some of the important facts of social work, because I've been doing it for the last 2 years, but I want to bring some experts. Even though I am an expert, I want to bring other experts to give their point of view. And then also too, it's Women's Month, right? And so I love to speak on love. I love to speak on those topics. And so as we enter into March, I want to celebrate social workers. I want to celebrate women. I want to celebrate doulas. I just love people. And I think all of this has to do with agape love and self love. Okay. So if you ever heard of agape love, more than likely it was mostly seen as God's unconditional love. Now, I'm a believer in God. Okay. Believe in God. I got Jesus tatted on my left hand. Um, that's a whole nother story. So I wanted to go on a tangent, but I'm not going to. So even in that, I believe that the way I started to see agape love was just a little different. And it's not your typical way of thinking, especially when it comes to like the Christian church. But like I started to see agape love as like unconditional love for people. I believe it is loving people for who they are. And sometimes it's just hard for us to do. Like sometimes it's hard for us to really accept people for who they are. And I think we spoke about it in the last episode. Like I accept people for who they are, but I don't necessarily have to deal with them. But like if a person shows me who they truly are, I have the decision to make if I want to deal with them or not, which is why it's so important for people to know themselves. It is so important for people to know themselves because I want you to give me the truth. You don't have to put on a facade with me. And I think like in dating, that's been a hard thing. Like, don't act a certain way in this. Let me tell you, I dated a narcissist. Okay. Dated a narcissist. If you've ever dated a narcissist, like a real narcissist, not these Instagram narcissists, like a real certified, real diagnosed narcissist, part of their whole identity is creating this image because they want you to see something so that they can attack, basically, right? And I remember like talking to this man that I used to be in a relationship with and saying, the crazy part about dealing with me is you could have told me who you truly was and I would have been able to make a decision. But when you take the decision away from me, it becomes a problem. It becomes a problem because you could have just told me the truth. You ain't have to lie. But I know that goes a lot deeper, but what I'm trying to get at is with people, just tell the truth. Just be who you are. Be you. And so when you start to accept people for who they truly are, I think is when you can really start having unconditional love. And I also think that's where self-love starts, right? Self-love starts when I accept myself for who I am. And I say it all the time. I think that's the beauty in life. You will be somebody different in different seasons. There are decisions and seasons that we do that will always stick to us. Like if you were known for fighting, like 10 years later, you'll probably still be known for that. Like I remember we used to go to the nail shop and used to beat people up. Like I remember you was in high school, used to be. I don't like for me, it was like, oh, you used to date so and so. And I remember you crying, or I remember you as so and so's girlfriend. Like to this day, I don't even remember half the stuff from high school. And I get people who remember things and people that I hung out with in high school, and I'm like, I don't even know who you're talking about. If they could walk in front of me right now and I would not even know who they are, but that's how people remember me, right? So when we go back to agape's love, so we see that God's love is unconditional, and we are taught that God's love is unfathomable. And I absolutely agree with that. I don't think we can truly understand God's love. But what if we start allowing ourselves to be human and seeing people for just that? Just think about that. What if we just started to accept life for what it is and accept people for what it is? What would the world look like? I'm not God. I never will be. Don't want to be God. Um, the day I was able to accept God is God regardless, and I'm not like it says in the Bible. If you're a Bible reader, God is the same today, yesterday, tomorrow, right? But as a human, I change. And no matter if I believe in God or not, God is still going to be God. Like me not believing in God doesn't stop God from being God. Me believing in God doesn't stop God from being God. Me walking away from God doesn't make God stop being God, right? The day I was able to accept that, I was truly able to love myself and love people because I do believe that God is within us. And because of God's love, I'm able to love other people. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I feel like I was called to this earth to love people for who they are. I feel like my main job is to show appreciation, empathy, forgiveness, and love and caring for people. In the last episode with Coach Speedy, he said I'm really good at caring for people, and I deeply believe that's my gift, that's my job, that's what I want to do. But at some point I had to take a step back and love myself the way I love them, which is where love you the way you love the world comes from. Because at some point I love people so much that I honestly just did not even know what loving myself even looked like. Like I couldn't tell you what self-love was at a certain point. So agape love, the way I would define it, is unconditional love for people, communities, and just the people, the humans of this world. And I'm not saying like, oh, you gotta love everybody, because I mean, there's just people I just don't like there's just people that I just don't ever care to have a conversation with. So I'm not saying like, oh, I just love everybody, but I do love to see the success of people. I do love to see people living there, even if I don't like you. Like I still hope that me not liking you doesn't affect you. Like, and it shouldn't, because I don't pay your bills, so it really shouldn't affect you. I just love seeing people love themselves. So that brings me to being a social worker. So I'm in this weird space. Okay, let's just call a spade a spade. When I became a social worker, I knew I would always be in community. So we call that macro social work, which is basically communities, societies, policies, advocacy, things like that. You're basically dealing with a group. No, not a group. You're basically dealing with the broader society. And I always knew that because that's always what I want to do. Like my main dream is to have a community center. If you have been following Healing She Got Faith, you know I opened a community office in 2021, no 2022, and that was like the start of what I wanted. Eventually, I want to have like a full-fledged community center. But I got into policy, I got into advocacy, I got into like community program, community development. That's all that. So all that's macro social work. But social work is such an undervalued, underpaid industry. And even to the point where I have a bachelor's of science in social work, I have a master's of social work in community organization with an emphasis in nonprofit management. I have never been hired as a social worker. I have been hired because of my social work background. And the cool thing about social work programs is from your undergrad, you start off in classes doing social work. So whether that's you doing a practicum, whether that's you doing some type of community service project, whether you have a class that forces you, like in all my social work classes from undergrad to graduate school, I always had classes that forced me to go into the community. I was very rarely in a classroom when I was in college and in grad school because that's just not social work, right? There was a couple classes that you just had to be in class for, but a lot of it was you were in the library doing research. You were partnering with local nonprofits and organizations to create resources and build these things to create a better society. So you have a lot of experience just from getting the degree. Just from getting a degree. If you never use a degree again, you're still a social worker because from day one they force you to be one. period. Okay. So I've always been hired because of my social work experience. I've never been hired as a social worker. So now I'm in a position where I'm looking for executive positions. And the common theme is, well, you're a social worker, you shouldn't want to do all of this. You should be taking babies away. You should be doing therapy. I've never wanted to do therapy. I don't like one-on-one work. I prefer group work. I prefer being in the background and doing like policy advocacy. I like building curriculum and things like that. Like I like directing and delegating and things like that. And so trying to pivot has been very, very interesting. And just as a woman, like I hired a career coach and who is a male. And like just even when he talks, hearing how like sometimes he has to remind the women in his program, like women are taught to be softer. They're taught to kind of be passive, sometimes a little passive aggressive, or just kind of like dumb down ourselves, like be a little bit nicer so that we like don't upset other people. And so sometimes like he's reminded us like be assertive, be confident, let them know like kind of be cocky with it. Like you got it, you have the experience. And even with me, like when he was going through my resume, he was like, you know what, this is really badass. Like you got a facility, you've done multiple curriculums, multiple groups, you do the editing, the curriculum for the podcast, you do the produce, like I do everything. He was like, that's really badass. Like you have a lot of experience. And the main reason why he has a program as a coach is to teach social workers that we have a lot of transferable skills. So that's where I'm at. I'm in this place. I know I no longer want to do direct services. I don't want to do solo work. I want a team and I really want an executive position. Like I'm ready to be in bigger rooms with bigger people. I love my organization, Healing She Got Faith. I love this is my baby. I love it. But I have to be 100% honest. Healing She Got Faith has not been financially successful. It is not paying the bills. It is not working. So I need to go back to work and I want to love what I do. I'm very productive. I want the experience too, and I want to be around people. I miss having a team. I have been doing everything on my own with Healing She Got Faith from day one, y'all. Now, don't get me wrong. I've hired teams. I've had staff on payroll. I have done a lot, but it just has not worked out. And I firmly believe one, I'm lacking skills, and two, I'm just not meeting the right people who can commit. I tend to meet a lot of people who overcommit, and that has been an issue in my journey. And so that is something I'm dealing with. I do want to go back to work though. I want to go back to work. I want an executive position. I want to be in places. I know I've said I want to leave education, but if I can get into like a district office or like a community program that actually pays, I am 100% willing to do that. Like I'm 100% willing to do that. Like, like just to be honest, I'm 1,000% in that. So it's been interesting to be a social worker. And so one, I have to love people in order to be a social worker. No matter what side of the line you find on in social work, you have to love people. I think everybody loves to say, oh, I just want to help people. And I think that's cute. I think that's so cute that you want to help people. But I also think that it's beyond helping people. We have to learn to be specific and we have to learn to pinpoint what exactly that we want to do. Like everybody's like, oh, if I could just reach one. Fuck that, y'all. It ain't about reaching one. It's about what's your legacy, what's your impact, because you're better than just reaching one. Whatever your talent is, like I am bomb at bringing people together. I am bomb at creating programming. I have such a successful piano lesson class monthly that I've built partnerships with. I am so good at that. I'm good at speaking. And let me tell you, I don't say words right. Sometimes I don't make sense, but when I say I have been a public speaker since I was probably 18 years old, and people love how I speak. People are engaged. People love how I am good at that. It's not about, oh, I just want to help this group of people, or I just want to get, no, it's about, I want you to love you the way you love the world, and I'm going to make sure that that message is sent across. Now, whether you take it or not ain't got nothing to do with me, but I know my calling is to tell you to love you the way you love the world. That's it. I want to give people a safe space to grieve. And yeah, right now, maybe only a handful of people have experienced that safe space, and that's fine. But it's not about, oh, I just want to reach one people, I just want to help people. No. I wonder what the world would be like if we all had safe spaces. I wonder what the world would be like if we were allowed to give our, like, to grieve. Like, what would our life look like if we had permission to grieve? Yeah, I was talking to a second or third grader, one of my jobs that I work with, and this baby has experienced so much death, like physical death. Family members found in body bags, siblings have passed away, biological parents have passed away, uncles, cousins. I mean, and on top of death, just like people going to jail, losing things. And so there's a lot of grief. And this young child sat in my office and was like, I don't want to cry because I don't want other people to cry. And it broke my heart because as adults, that's what we do too. Well, I don't want to cry because I don't want to be inconvenienced. I don't want to cry because people don't want to deal with the tears. I don't want to cry. And this child is seeing adults around him act like that. So at a young age where he's supposed to have the safe and free space to cry, he won't allow himself to because the adults around him won't allow themselves to. And so we're seeing this impact on a child, and we're seeing behaviors because there's a lot of grief in that. And one of the reasons why I became a social worker was because, one, I wanted a community center. I wanted a community center because I wanted a safe space. I wanted a community center because I wanted community. And it wasn't about just reaching a certain person or just saying, like, oh, if it's just one person, that's fine. It was about, there's a passion in me and I want to put it out there. Whether people take it or not, I'm going to put it out there regardless. I'm going to put it out there regardless of what it is. That also taught me self-love, because in that I learned that I love everybody else so much more. Like, there was a point in my life where I was like, I don't have hobbies. I really just like watching other people. I really just like seeing other people, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, but what about you? And then when my mom died, y'all, mind you, she died 6 months before I graduated from my master's, right? And my mom died, and I was alone. And I was like, Lisa, this is not it. You cannot be loving everybody, and when you need somebody, they not here. But one of the reasons why people couldn't be here was because they're not taught to give themselves permission to be who they are. They're not taught to give themselves permission to grieve. And that was a hard reality for me. And so that sparked a whole nother interest in my healing journey, my social work journey, my all that. It also helped Healing She Got Faith come to life. But also, too, let me be 100% honest. Healing She Got Faith was literally my final project in my master's program. Healing She Got Faith was also a thought that came to me when I was 12 in a community program. And I said, this is what I want to be. This is it. Whatever this is called. I don't know what it's called. Don't know what career this is. Don't ask me what I want to do at the age of 18. What I want is, I want a community center. Point blank, period. So at the age of 33, that's what I'm living. Because from the age of 12, and not to say like every day since the age of 12, like, I mean, I had forgot my dreams at some point, and then I had to go to college, and the idea got sparked again, and then I got to grad school and I learned a little bit more, so I started putting the pieces together. And then I remember being 12 and being like, oh, like, I've always wanted to do this. That's crazy. Cool. Because also, too, that could get tricky, too. Because to be honest, I never really knew what I wanted to do when I grew up. And even now, as a social worker, like, I honestly want to leave the social work industry. I honestly want to leave the education industry. But I don't know what I want to do. all I know is I want to do community. I would love a position to work in policy, analytics, research. I would honestly love a job like that. So if you're hiring, I'm open. My resume is ready. And I know I say I want to get out of education, but I think maybe I want to get into like the administration of education. Maybe I've definitely been looking into that. I'm definitely interested in working in like universities and things of that nature. But I say all this to say it is hard to be a social worker. It is also hard to be a woman, because even in predominantly women industries, sometimes we still have men who are over us, and maybe they do or don't have that experience. But sometimes there is an expectation that like this is a man's job regardless, and this is a woman's job regardless, or both the male and female get hired and the male gets paid $10,000 more than the woman does, and so we still see undervalue in women, and we don't see social workers being valued, and I think that is so hard. Like, it's hard to be a social worker right now. Like, one of the main reasons why I just don't want to be in the social work industry right now or even get hired as a social worker is because, one, they're going to cap me at a certain salary that ain't gonna work for me, and then two, they put you in a box of this is what you're supposed to do because you are a social worker. And so let's bring it back to self-love. I know my worth and I know what I'm capable of. One of the things that I had to have a conversation with one of my mentors and a couple of people was, I'm not asking for too much. Like, I deserve six figures. The minimum I can get paid is 80, 85 a year. That's the minimum that I'll accept because I know what I bring. Also, too, I'm not applying to no jobs that I know I can't do. If I have applied for a job, I have literally looked at my resume. I have literally went to my LinkedIn and checked off. Okay, they say they want this. They say they want this. And if there is like only like maybe like 5 to 7 things that I can't do on their job description, I'm applying. And I'm gonna be honest in the interview. I don't have experience with X, Y, and Z, but I do have experience in this, and I know how I learn. So if I don't know it, if I don't have the experience, you can teach me because I can tell you how I learn. That's a whole nother thing about self-love, y'all. We got to learn how we manage. We got to learn how we lead. We got to learn how we learn. And we got to stop being scared. School has taught us that we sit in the desk for 8 hours and this is how we learn. That's not how I learn. That is not how I learn. Okay? And we have to learn that. We have to go back. And so loving yourself enough to say, this is what I deserve. This is what I can prove. This is what I need. And let me be very clear. If you're in a position where you are struggling and that salary ain't what it needs to be, but it'll do his job right now, please take that job. I'm currently in a position. I have 2 jobs and they're not paying me what I need, and also to very high intensity, but it's getting the bills paid right now and it's helping me, so I'm sacrificing, but also too I'm actively building up my resume and networking and learning. Like, this past weekend when this episode is released, I'm coming back from a social work conference, which I can't wait to talk about. But I'm coming back from a social work conference. I'm going to the Millennial Social Work Conference in Atlanta, and I'm going to learn, and I'm going to connect with social workers during Social Work Month, and I'm going to have these conversations. I'm going to have these tough conversations. We have to put respect on social workers. The social work industry has to put respect on social workers. We have to stop undervaluing and underpaying social workers. Also, too, I believe that one of the reasons why the social work industry is undervalued is because it is a woman dominant industry and we don't value women. And the men who decide to be social workers, kudos to you, because you could definitely go somewhere else and get paid a lot. And you're not. You're gonna get paid pennies like us. You might get paid a couple more pennies than us because you're a man, but that's another story for another day. Oh man. Okay. Um I think one of the cool things about being a social worker is that we have a code of ethics that we follow. Um, that's also a controversy, a topic of debate. But one of the things that is in the code of ethics is self determination. And so, what that means is like each client has their right to self determination. And so, in that, if we say, hey, we think this is going to help you, this is going to keep you alive, this is going to do blah, 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 and the client's like, nope, I'm not doing it, that's their right to self determination. And as social workers, we have the right to self determination too, because at some point we are somebody's client. We most social workers have their own social workers or their own therapists, and also too, if we decide, hey, I've been in the education system as a school social worker for X amount of years, I'm done. You have that right to self determination, just like I am. I want to be in an executive position and I'm looking into industries to see what that looks like. I have the right to self determination. And that's what it is. And I think that is so beautiful. The same things that we preach to our clients, we have to practice. The same things that we challenge our clients, we have to practice. I get it. The issue is a lot of our jobs don't allow for that. And I listen, I'm preaching to the choir because our jobs are way too intense and they're way too distracting from our life. It is hard to have self-love because we give our all to a job who just can't give us more, won't give us more. The funders won't give us more. I really hate that we depend on funders and grants to have a livable wage because a lot of these funders just they not with us. They just want to see their money going somewhere and they're very strict about it. It's their money, but why do I like it? Whew, it makes me so mad because a lot of them will never be able to do what we do. And so we have that right to self. We have that right of self determination to do what we need to do what we want to do. We have that right to leave the industry if we decide to. If we decide to, and we don't have to explain it to nobody. As a social worker, we do not have to explain to anybody why we decided to do what we decided to do because our jobs are intense. We deal with people's problems. And then when you just minding your business, people see that you're a social worker and they come up and they just tell you. Whew, you know how many times I just been at the grocery store trying to buy some donuts and I get the whole life story? And I get it. Like, again, what would life look like if we just had a safe space to be? Um, I think I'm gonna end on this note. And I wrote this in my notes, and this is as a social worker, I keep going back because I know the world needs more resources and safe spaces. This is agape love to me. Also, I know that self-care and self-love is preached in social work, but it is not thought of to the actual social worker. Most of us cannot practice what we preach because the industry doesn't allow us to. I just said that. I didn't realize that's the note I was reading. But I want to end on that because I think that is agape love. I think agape love is accepting people for who they are and going back into community and wanting resources and safe spaces so bad for complete strangers is agape love because a lot of what people are going through, it is shaping them to be who they are, which is shaping our society. And so we need more resources. I say all the time, we need a community center on every corner, just like we have a gas station on every corner, just like we got a liquor store on every corner. We need just as many community centers. That's what's going to help us. Yes, it takes a lot of funding. Yes, it takes a lot. So I know realistically, what does that look like? I don't know. But each day that we decide that this is what I'm going to do, also too, as a social worker, as a woman, telling yourself that I'm going to rest today is just as powerful as going out to the streets and doing it too. Resting is breaking a generational curse. Resting is powerful. Saying, I am not doing this today is just as good as showing up because sometimes we have to set that boundary. Like, hey, I've worked for 3 weeks straight, so I need 3 days off. Okay. That's just as powerful and you're doing enough. And I think there are people out here that need to hear that you are doing enough. My church says that you are enough. You're doing enough. If you're tired, that's your body saying we need to rest. Rest. It's okay. I promise you it's okay. Everything gonna still be there. The bills, everything's still gonna be there. Rest. I want you to rest. So I think that's it for today. I hope that explains my version of agape love and self love, or social work, or whatever. Yeah, everybody has an agape love story, a self love story. This is the last episode of Everyone Has a Love Story series. Yeah, I'm excited, y'all. I'm excited for my new transitions. I'm excited to continue to learn. I'm excited to continue to love people. But without further ado, let's go ahead and end on our affirmation. All right, welcome to episode 110's affirmation. And so this affirmation says, I am ready to trust and love myself more this year. I am ready to trust and love myself more this year. I think that's self explanatory. Like, it's time that we start trusting ourselves. That's self-love. And it's time for us to start catering to ourselves to have a better agape love, to have a better love for society, to be able to accept people for who they are because we've accepted ourselves. Trust yourself. Whatever it is that you need. I say this all the time. Whatever decision you make it and stand on it. It don't matter how crazy people think you are. Make it and stand on it. You deserve that. You know yourself. You good for it. And guess what? If it doesn't work out, we try again. That's the beautiful thing about life. There's always opportunity. Always opportunity. So I know that's another topic. But, anyways, I am ready to trust and love myself more this year. I love you, but love you the way you love the world. And I'll catch you next Monday. Bye, guys.